This is Points of Clarity, the CMO interview series from Clear M&C Saatchi. Each interview covers one topic, features two speakers, and in just 3 short questions aims to deliver total clarity. We'll be starting shortly, so do enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to Points of Clarity, the C-level interview series from Clear M&C Saatchi. My name is Geraint Jones, and I'm Clear's Global Marketing Director. Broadcast live on Zoom and LinkedIn. Each interview covers one topic, features 2 speakers, and in just 3 questions aims to deliver total clarity. In each episode, I'll be joined by a senior brand and marketing leader to discuss how they manage the often chaotic world of modern marketing, and we'll do it in about 30 minutes. This week, I'm joined by Doug Palladini, Global Brand President of Vans. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Geraint, thank you for having me. How's lockdown treating you over there in England?
It's kind of okay. I think we're getting away with it just about for the moment. So today, Doug and I are going to be chatting about why supporting and celebrating creativity is one of the most powerful tools lifestyle brands can use in navigating the chaos of this year. A veteran of the action sports industry with more than 25 years of leadership across marketing, sales, and product, Doug was appointed to lead Vans as its global brand president in July 2016. And in his role, Doug oversees the strategic direction of Vans' more than $4 billion global business, while enabling the regional teams to develop and deliver local strategies to drive continued worldwide growth. A longtime leader within the Vans brand, Doug has held various roles within the company, and between 2004 and 2014, he served as their global marketing leader. He's played an integral role in the transformation of Vans into a global icon of the creative expression in youth culture, becoming the largest action sports footwear and apparel brand on the planet, which is available in more than 84 countries. So now I've built you and Vans up, Doug, let's get down to business. I want to talk to you first about the roles brands like Vans play in supporting creativity. We've seen the creative industries the world over take a hammering this year. Why, for you, is it so important for brands like Vans, through initiatives like Checkerboard Day, which I think is next week, to keep supporting creativity through the multiple crises of a year like 2020?
Creativity is more important than ever when you're in a anxiety-ridden world that we're in today, because creativity is such a critical part of our humanity. Creativity is part of being a human being, and it's something that brings happiness, joy, fulfillment to all of our lives. And without it, and where you see it, take a back seat, you see the repercussions, right? And I'm sure you at Clear have seen the same thing.
Yeah, we do. It's such a tough situation to find yourself in when creativity is present by its absence, I guess. We've seen it all through this year where it's been hard to be creative in a challenging year. And yet we found it to be incredibly important, not just from a mental health perspective, not just from a kind of a joy perspective in what has been a quite dark and tricky time, but also from a commercial perspective. I mean, creativity has real commercial value. Do you want to talk to me a little bit about the importance of creativity and not only supporting your grassroots partners, but also the commercial value of doing that for Vans and the wider brand?
Yeah, at Vans, we believe that the highest expression of what our brand can be is when it truly represents a part of who you are, and that's what creativity is as well, right? That's the tie, that's the connector. And so when you wear Vans because it says something about who you are, that is the North Star for us. And so that's why things like music and art, that those action sports that we're a part of, like surfing and skateboarding, the things from street culture that matter so much to us, the way that people express themselves, if our products are the platform that allows people to express themselves, then we we've done it. We're happy. That's what we want. That's really what we want more than anything. I think it's a lot less about sort of that transaction driven thinking that you get from a lot of brands, and for us a lot more about that human part, that sincerity, the meaningful part of who you are.
Now, if you look to some of the people that you associate Vans most closely with, for me, it's people like Tony Hawk, right? And like you look at like Tony Hawk's creative process, you look at the way Tony Hawk goes about creating new tricks, but also you think about how Tony Hawk kind of came up and became who he is. I don't think it was ever kind of his primary goal to become an extremely wealthy person. He just wanted to skate and be creative with it, right? And that's the sort of the ethos that I can see coming through on things like Checkerboard Day.
Yeah, it really is it's about a state of mind. And we say that off the wall, which is the Vans tagline, we say it's a state of mind. It's the way that you look at the world. And skateboarders look at the world through a very creative lens. If you and I are walking down a street, we may notice people passing or a car going by that we like, or a shop that we want to visit. A skateboarder's looking for a whole different set of things. Oh, there's a ledge I can go off. There's something I can grind. Oh, look at that curb. Oh, look at that possible jump. And I love that idea, that it's more about how you look at the world that really differentiates you, if creativity and creative self-expression is what fuels your purpose. And so that's really where Checkerboard Day came from. It came from our global teams, tens of thousands of Vans people all over the world looking for ways in which creative self-expression was manifesting itself in those 84 countries you mentioned earlier, and a lot of disparate activity. And so we thought, look, what if we combine that energy to amplify it in one day? Could we really help people remember what that power of creativity is? Picasso has that famous quote about every child being an artist. The problem is remaining one when you grow up. I think that's so prescient for the world that we're in today. And if Checkerboard Day is that kind of reminder, sort of that poke, like, oh yeah, I should pick up that guitar that's been gathering dust in the corner, because that really brings me happiness. And I may suck at it, but that's not the point, right? The point is that I know a few chords and it makes me happy. And so I think it's just that Checkerboard Day is that reminder that creativity is part of what fuels us as human beings, and that we all have a role to play in spreading that message.
Yeah, that's it's not only a beautiful thing to talk about, it's an important thing to talk about in a year as challenging as 2020's been, right? I mean, you've got behind you an image from the Black Lives Matter movement. There's all sorts of interesting challenges that have appeared through the year, not least COVID. And we find ourselves in a place where, I know from personal experience and from speaking to various colleagues and family and friends, that people have their dark times. They have their really challenging times through 2020 in particular. And so the idea of using creativity to lift oneself, to pull oneself up out of that, and in the same time help others, I think it's a really beautiful idea, and it reminds you of the power of it. I mean, the creative world took a bit of a kicking at the beginning of the COVID crisis for doing all of these sort of identikit ads that sort of said we're all in this together. I actually I really love the idea that something like Checkerboard Day is actually the response to that, to say, look, I know you did this last year, but this year, this is all about manifesting creativity to benefit people, not only in their own homes, in their own kind of lives, but also to benefit a number of very important mental health charities.
Yeah, at Vans, I would tell you that purpose and culture are how we show up every day. They're the way that we act. They're the way that we treat our team internally and our fans externally. It's not, what I always say is, it's not a lunchroom poster, right? You get all these great sayings and like, oh, let's make a poster, put it up on a wall. No, don't do that, please. Just make it part of who you are as a brand, and make it part of what you do. And so Checkerboard Day is about doing. It's actually about being that change in the world, right? And a lot less about saying. And I think that the great meme where you take the somber piano music and then you put the black and white images behind it, you can basically an algorithm could build that creative. So if you really want to identify at on a higher level, if you want to really say we have a higher calling than just the things we make, it can't be about an ad. It can't be about a poster. It has to be actually what you do, how you show up. And so Checkerboard Day is a chance to sort of say, yeah, like this is how we show up. This is what this is how Vans wants to show up. And if you're inspired by that, then join us.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think it ties into one of the other themes of this year, which has been brands, brand marketers, CMOs having to really think about the experience that their brand creates far more than they had previously, perhaps. I mean, for a long time, I think people like, Mark Ritson, the kind of marketing professor who's now relatively famous around the world, has been saying that, the role of the CMO is dead. We're all only focused as CMOs on the kind of the promotion side of the 4Ps. But actually this year has actually shown, at least to us and our clients, that they need to be thinking about experience. They need to be thinking about how their message, their purpose, their brand promise shows up in the real world, because people are really valuing that reality, that real experience, far more than they were perhaps even 12 months ago.
Yeah, we have found with our consumer base globally that their expectation has fundamentally moved, and not in a sort of ad hoc or on a whim kind of way, but permanently shifted to wanting the dollars that they spend to go against brands that share a common set of beliefs with them. And there's a certain amount of cynicism as a consumer looks at a brand to express those beliefs, and I think a healthy cynicism, in that they understand that brands are people that sell things, and we are trying to sell something. And so they want to see the proof, and they want to see the proof over and over again, and they want to see a sustained commitment. I think that's a big part of it. So if you're thinking in terms of a campaign, and that arc that has a beginning and an apex and a trailing off at the end, probably not going to work, and probably just going to increase the cynicism. But
Yeah.
the sustained movement is really I think what that enabling that purpose, being a part of things like Black Lives Matter, being a part of things like true sustainable thinking to impact our environment, are really all about.
It comes off as real when a brand like Vans, that's been doing it for 50 years, does it. It's much more difficult for brands who haven't realized the importance of this in advance of a crisis like this year happening, to be able to show up and do it comfortably. Do you have any, beyond saying, act rather than say, do you have any other sort of suggestions for some of the people who'll be listening about, what they can do to try and persuade senior leadership within their businesses to start to show up in this conversation and not just add to the conversation itself?
Yeah, I think it's about at Vans, our experience has been about identifying cohorts and bringing them into that community of our brand. So it's not just this top-down brand talking at you. It's much more about putting the thinking out there and encouraging the people around the brand to jump in. So those could be your accounts. So when COVID hit, we started doing a lot of work to take care of our skate shops and our surf shops and music venues and restaurants, all the creators that we love, through this program called Foot the Bill, where those friends of ours could go on our custom site and make a shoe that we would sell on their behalf, and then they would get the proceeds from to help keep the lights on. So that's one cohort. Another cohort could be your what Vans calls our extended family. So those are athletes, musicians, artists that we work with all the time. Invite them into the conversation and let them have a voice. Turn the microphone over on Instagram or TikTok to them and let them express on behalf of your brand. It doesn't always have to be from us as the inside brand people or our agency, if you use agencies. That there's all these other cohorts out there that you can sort of bring in. And I believe that's a nice sort of validation point. It sort of takes a little bit of that tinge of commercialism off a cause-based message when it comes from a broader group of people who share that common belief.
Yeah, especially I guess if you're also in the same breath, what you're doing is you're supporting parts of society who have, let's be honest, definitely here in the UK, not been supported by the government in the same way that some other parts of society have been. We know that the music industry in this country has been very, very under-supported by, particularly the live music industry has been very under-supported by the kind of the bailout programs that have come out from central government. Not sure quite how it's gone in the US, but it is definitely much more difficult to be and justify being creative at this point in time as a career choice. You just have to go on LinkedIn and see the number of people who are trying to think about changing career because they can no longer make ends meet. So to hear a brand again showing up and saying we're going to support our cohorts in the right way by sharing our profits in a way that's much more tangible, you know, it's a manifestation of creativity, but it's also saying, look, we have your back because you've had ours for such a long time.
Yeah, I think that's super important. We are very loyal, and I will tell you that to see those longtime board sports shops, restaurants, music venues really struggle to stay afloat. Good friends of ours lose businesses that they've created and have been their sort of life's mission has been heartbreaking. And I know that's not exclusive to our brand. It's happening all over the world all the time. And so empathy goes a long way too. I think just saying, hey, we feel you and we've got you, right? Like we're thinking about you and we've got you.
Yeah, that Foot the Bill, I remember reading about it in, I think, July, and just thinking Foot the Bill was such a lovely illustration of what brands should be doing right now, as a genuine, we're showing up, not just saying we're showing up. I'm going to talk to you a bit now about, you've spoken, actually, I've seen a number of posts that you've produced and some kind of interviews you've been part of where you've talked about the importance of creativity in supporting mental health and well-being. It's obviously a big part of Checkerboard Day. With that in mind, have you adapted this year in particular? Have you adapted or altered your approach to leadership, I guess, in the face of all the chaos that we've been dealing with? And then as we look forward to next year, how will your experience of this year change the way you approach leadership in future?
So yeah, absolutely has. It's completely and utterly changed and disrupted the very sort of programmed way we've been thinking about running the business. The number one skill that we've had to learn is extreme flexibility. So we cannot, with the size of our business and the number of employees we have, we cannot consider and deal with and impact every possible scenario. Two working parents with 2 kids, one working parent with 3 kids, the possibilities are endless. So what we've said instead is we're going to employ this very powerful new software, and it's called flexibility. It's called empathy. So what we are going to do is say, if you need to deal with your life differently in the times that we're in right now, go ahead. We will support you. We know that you still care about your job and will do a good job. And we trust you. I think that's a part of it too. We trust that that will happen. So we'll be flexible. If you need to go move to another state or another country to help take care of your extended family, go ahead. We got you. And I think that's what's been able to take a little bit of pressure out of the valve, is that flexibility. Because again, we can't be the savior for every possible situation. It's just not realistic. But what we can do is say, you take care of you, and we'll make sure that we have your back. And I think that's been a very, very important learning and point of adaptation for us. If I could offer a different one that's been quite interesting for us, Vans traditionally is a hand-to-hand grassroots kind of marketer. What we do live and in person is a huge part of what we believe is our competitive advantage and our true and meaningful differentiator as a brand. Guess what COVID did? It cut that limb off. Yeah. And so the metaphor that I've been using is, if you have a friend who is blind or deaf or has lost a limb for some reason, what you learn is that the rest of the body becomes much more acute in response. And I think that's exactly what Vans has done. So we lost that sense. Our sense of sight, our sense of smell, it disappeared. Okay. And we're like, well, we can't just throw up our hands and say, I can't do that anymore. We had to think about a different way of doing it. And so what we tried to do is make that virtual sense of belonging, of being a part of this community I talked about, much more acute as a result. And I think that has also that has also been very powerful. So if you look at what we've seen in the kind of content that we're producing, we did this thing called bouncing off the walls. We did a fan shoebox challenge that was really fun. What it basically said is, we know we can't all be together, so we're going to be more acute and more sensitive and more aware in the places where we can continue to connect with you. And I believe that that was taken by our fans as a very credible and sincere effort to connect. We said it, we know you might be in a world right now where where you're not interested in buying anything, and you know what, that's okay. Right, we're taking the long view here. This is about brand love over time, and not about, well, if I discounted enough, maybe I could still sell it to you. I think I saw brands do that, and I was, reaching through my Zoom saying, no, don't do that. So I feel like that was a very good response to a very challenging situation for all of us.
Yeah, I think you look at the responses of brands more generally, but you look at the response to that empathy issue, right? I mean, it does come back to being able to empathize with the context that your employees, your colleagues, and also your customers and your community are in at any given time. And if you don't have that empathy down, it's very difficult for a business and a brand to actually show up in any meaningful way. And I think if you look at, we had a fantastic conversation on our other show, Clear Conversations, midway through the year. We had Abigail Posner from Google's brand unit on the show, and she said something really interesting. She was like, actually, right now, the data that places like Google and Instagram and other social media networks and Facebook and other bits and pieces can provide to brands for a long time has been used almost in a negative way, but actually this year it's been used unbelievably positively to create a more effective and more empathetic set of human connections with people, because they've been able to really understand what people really need right now, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not in 2 years' time. But she gave a brilliant example to us of a retailer in the US who had very quickly overnight worked out that people were coming onto their website and they were searching for, how does curbside pickup work? How do I do all of this? How do I do all of that? And they recognized that all the resources that they had arranged against that were not communicating very effectively or efficiently against it. So they changed it overnight. And the only way they were able to do that is by empathizing with the real situation, finding the data to justify what they needed to do differently, and then acting on it. And I guess that's been the real story of this year.
It has been, and I'll give you a real-time example that we're dealing with at this very moment. There's a lot of news about the lack of capacity for delivery during the Christmas period. We've exceeded that capacity as a commercial world, as a commercial planet. And so there's a lot of anxiety, like, well, are my parents going to get their gift on time? And it's starting now. It's starting now in the middle of November. And we're seeing that every day, where we hear it from customer service, we see it on our website. And so the response has to be, no, we're going to get you the package tomorrow, and we're not going to charge you any more for it. Don't worry about it, right? That's a great way to respond to the anxiety that people are feeling right now, because, like, I don't want to go to the mall. I'm not dealing with all that. I can't risk it. I can't risk getting sick, or I'm not allowed to if you're in your world, right? And so with this heightened anxiety, if you respond by providing solutions, what you're saying to your fans is, we hear you, we get you, we've got you, right? So I think that's just a good example of something that's happening today.
Yeah, it's a great example. I mean, Christmas itself is going to be such an emotionally charged situation this year, right? I mean, for everyone, it's going to be different. Will we be able to spend times with our extended families? I mean, we don't know that yet in the UK. We may still be under lockdown conditions. What's the situation going to be in a month's time is still up in the air. Even with the great news about a vaccine this week, it's still a big issue. And so I see it as a responsibility for brands as well to work out how they can ease that frustration, concern, make people's mental health better, and give them that sense that emotionally they're going to be okay, in a time when actually not many people really know they will be.
Right. And that's why, we couldn't have picked a better date for Checkerboard Day this year. that opportunity to sort of dust off your creative self and bring it back into your daily activities, to find some, well-being and some happiness. I think the timing could not be better,
Yeah.
to be doing it next week. So
I think it's a lovely way to wrap this up. I think we've got a fantastic opportunity next week to all get involved with Checkerboard Day around the world. I think, if you go back to the beginning of this crisis, I think everyone was baking banana bread around the world furiously and painting for the first time in decades and dusting off the old skateboard or BMX and doing some interesting tricks and trying not to end up in the emergency room. So I think it's a great illustration of what we should all be trying to do next week, which is to take a bit of time for ourselves, dust off some old things that we enjoy and we enjoy creating and having a go at it. All in
so
a good cause.
November 19th, wear something checkerboard to show that you believe in the power of a creative self-expression and the good that it is for us as human beings, and do something do something for yourself, do something to support somebody else, who could use that creativity. Remind your friends and family, and I think the world would be a better place, at least for that day.
Thank you so much, Doug. This has been a fascinating chat. I want to say thank you to Doug for joining us today. Points of Clarity continues in early December when we'll be interviewing Nicole Zimmerman, who's head of customer and marketing at Western Union Business Solutions. And we'll be talking about the importance of diversity and diversity of thought with Nicole, which I think will be a fascinating conversation. So watch out for that one. Next week on the 18th, I'll be hosting a clear conversation on the topic of From Chaos to Clarity, driving growth in a new golden age of marketing. It's a preview of our new global CMO and CEO study into the future of modern marketing, which is launching in January next year. So come and join us on Wednesday at 4 p.m. UK time or 11 a.m. Eastern time for a sneak peek at the insights and hopefully quite an interesting debate with our panel. You'll be able to sign up on our LinkedIn page, so please share that with your friends, colleagues, and connections, and look out for more announcements in the coming weeks. And thanks so much for coming along. And thank you again, Doug. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.